Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm so excited to just get to know you on a deeper level. Obviously, we've hung out a handful of times now.
Not that many. We pretty recently met, I would say.
Yes. Yeah. And I slid in those DMs.
You did.
You better believe it.
Because I thought it was the sweetest thing.
I literally was like, I need to be her friend. So like, how do I make this intro? And I'm like, hey, do you want to come to my confidence course brunch? And instantly you were like, yep, see you there.
No, absolutely.
I'm like, the confidence.
Well, I've seen you around. You know, we have like many mutual friends, and I'm like, oh my God, you're gorgeous, you're stunning, and you can just tell how like your zest for life, like through Instagram. I feel like you can tell, like you just have such a strong light. And I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to come. Thank you so much.
Oh,
so I had to.
My God, you just made my day. That was the nicest thing ever, because I have to set the scene for anybody that's watching. If you can't see Catherine and how freaking stunning and amazing she is, she's talking about my light, like, come on now. And when she walked into this confidence course, she's wearing the most stunning yellow outfit. You literally were a ray of sunshine. I was like taken back.
I didn't know what the theme was going to look like, but I had to match.
Oh, girl.
It was blue. Your whole colors were like blue and butter yellow, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and you come
perfect.
in, yes.
It was kismet. It was kismet.
It really was.
Yeah.
You understood the assignment.
Yeah.
And not only were you stunning and so nice and so personable, just like you are on social media.
Oh my gosh.
Honestly, I was taken back by how intelligent you are. Like you carry yourself with such confidence and intelligence, and you can tell that you're really passionate about what you put out. And I know that passion always comes from a purpose. There's always something that sparked that.
Yes.
So for the people and the girlies that know you from just beauty, from just TikTok and Instagram, take me back before you ever posted one of those videos.
Oh my gosh.
Where'd that passion come from?
Okay. Well, I think we'd have to thank my lovely mother dearest. Definitely.
Love a mom.
She, even from a young age, so she had two girls. My sister and I, she's a little older than me, but she really instilled confidence in us at a very young age, which is great because I'm like 2 feet tall. I'm 5 feet tall, but I'm very short. And she always is like, do not let anyone walk all over you ever. Like, you are so smart. You can do whatever you want to do. Like, go out and like take what you want. And
snaps for mom.
yeah, no, she killed it. She did a great job.
Love that.
So that is kind of how my sister and I like went about life. And I've never really let that idea die, I guess. Like, I'm very strong. I'm very bold. I'm very, if you ask my fiance, kind of hard to live with, I would assume. But like, and she also was brilliant. She was super smart, which probably helped. So, but like, I kind of operate life like that because in my mind, it's like, no one's going to come through life and give you what you want. Like, you really have to go and do it yourself. And I'm like very much so like an action person. Like, if I say I'm going to do something, like, it's probably going to start tomorrow.
In the exact same way.
Yeah. Like, with literally anything. Like, I want to buy a new house. Like, I will probably be in escrow by the end of the month. Like, things, or like these businesses, the hats, for instance. Like, I had the idea of the hat, and then I was like, okay, I made an LLC that weekend. And I was like, we're going to figure out how to launch this hat. Same thing kind of with Suede Skin. Like, everyone was like, oh, you should start a body butter company. And I was like, you know what, you guys are right. I will. And granted, they all take time, and there's like so much more that goes into it. But I feel like you have to have that confidence that you can do something. And I've definitely had that instilled in me at a very young age.
That's
huge.
Why,
yeah. Marla was great. We love her.
That's huge.
Was great. She is great. She's still very great.
Still great. Still doing great.
Still doing really great.
That's so important. And I don't think that people realize that when you instill confidence young, it carries in every aspect of your life. Where I think so many girls, especially, they grow up with like, there's confidence instilled in them, but they don't really take it outside of the house. They don't take it to heart. They don't take it in their career. They don't take it into their relationships. And the fact that you were able to have that really be the foundation of who you are is rare. Yeah. I didn't have that. And I have a wonderful mom that instilled the most confidence in me, but I didn't know how to translate that into other areas. That's something I learned in like my mid-20s. And maybe that's why I'm so drawn to you, because you're younger than me by a lot.
No,
just how old are you?
So. I'm 28.
Oh,
how old
my
are
goodness,
you?
I'm 30.
Yeah, no.
God, I honestly
it's a skincare, babe. That's why.
It's a skincare.
That's why I do beauty content. I know what to put on your face.
That's literally the best ad for all of your beauty content. Just take that clip right there because it's working, honey.
Thank you. You know, I actually, and I'm sure we're going to talk about like negative comments on doing this as a full-time job, but I posted a video kind of near the end of the year, and it was like my biggest regrets of purchases of 2023. And someone commented on it and they were like, ew, who's raising this kid? And I responded back, I was like, ma'am, I'm 28.
Ma'am.
And I was like, this is my full-time job. You're looking at it, babes. Like, I have had 2 other jobs before this. And she was like, oh, I guess you should take it as a compliment because I thought you were 20. And I was like, oh my God.
You're like, actually,
so much.
Thank you very much.
I was like, that might be the nicest mean thing anyone's ever said to me. Thank you so much. And then I made like a series of videos talking about my favorite skincare routines based off of that comment. So, you know. Just gotta work with what you got.
You gotta work with what you got. So you just said you had 2 jobs before you started with content creation. What were those?
Yes. Okay. So when I was in college, I went to the University of Washington. I grew up in Seattle, lived there my whole life. Wouldn't recommend it, but it was fine. It's a little gloomy for me. But I went to the University of Washington and studied finance. And so, you know, you could kind of had a couple options. You could go into iBanking or you could do consulting. At the time, I loved traveling and I get bored very, very fast. So I was like, okay, consulting sounds like a fantastic idea because you can switch clients whenever you want. If you don't like something, change it up, whatever. It's also a great way to garner like a ton of experience in a short amount of time. So for me, that sounded a lot more appealing than iBanking. So we went the consulting route. I worked at Deloitte in their M&A practice doing, it's like cross consulting, but I kind of did like, you're all over the place when you're working there. So like I did some M&A roles, but I also worked at like Lockheed Martin on their F-35s for 2 years, which was how I was traveling to Texas so much and eventually kind of how I ended up in Austin. But that was my first role and I was there for around 3-ish years. Moved to Austin, got a dog, and this was like right during COVID is when I moved to Austin, and got a dog, and I was like, all right, well, we're gonna end up traveling again sometime, and I now own a puppy, so I can't go back. So I kind of lightly started looking for a new job, ended up at Salesforce doing like internal corporate strategy there, which, I mean, I think I'll put it on myself. I don't think I vetted that role well enough. Like, I kind of do think that sometimes when you're applying to jobs, you kind of get like swept up in the idea of doing something new, and maybe it's not necessarily, knowing myself, something that I would have loved to do. And I feel like that kind of shows in the work and how like invested you are in it. But also going from doing consulting where I was used to working like, 10 plus hours a day to doing industry work where I feel like they were also trying to get used to like how to work in COVID, and like I didn't know my manager super well and he didn't know me very well, and I think he like had trouble delegating things to me, so I was like barely working. And kind of at the same time, actually, I had just met Courtney Shields. I don't know if you know her personally.
I don't.
She is the sweetest, and we became friends instantly. And I, before this, didn't have a TikTok, never posted on Instagram, nothing. But when I was working at Deloitte, I love CPG retail strategy. Like, I've always loved like retail strategy and tried to do as many initiatives in that area as possible if I couldn't do like the actual work, because there aren't a lot of projects that are sold in that area. But I would always do it as like external initiatives and all that jazz. So in my mind, I was like, dang, one day I really want to be like a CEO. Like, I want to have my own product. Like, I didn't know what it was, but I was like, I would love to. But then I become best friends with her. I'm seeing her build this incredible brand, Dibs, and I'm like, oh, dang, it would be a lot easier to sell a product if I had a built-in marketplace. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I should just kind of start a TikTok. And I started on TikTok because I was so terrified of what people would think of me on Instagram, because that's where all of my actual friends were from college. I think everyone that does content to some degree goes through this like level of shame, and just like you don't want anyone to know about it, and it's so embarrassing. And I feel like it's so hard to get over. Like, and I tell people that all the time, like, you just need to get over it and post. But it is like honestly really, really painful to go through, because it's just like, you can see how many people are like sharing your videos, and I'm like, damn, I know it's like all those girls like just talking shit about me behind my back. But I think it was probably around like 50 or 60,000 followers on TikTok where I was like, okay, maybe like it's my job. Like, now it's like a little less embarrassing. And I remember too, when I started posting, like cross-posting on Instagram. I added like every person I've ever known on Instagram to like my close friends and posted like a story. And I was like, hey, by the way, if you guys don't want to see any of this content, just unfollow me, because like this is literally my job now and I'm going to be posting on Instagram. So I'm so sorry about that. But like it is what it is. But yeah, so I think she was a huge inspiration of why I wanted to start socials in the first place, and like why I really saw it as a possibility to like really pivot my career away from doing like normal corporate stuff, but also like adding more on to just doing influencing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A quote just popped into my head. Everybody like thinks you look stupid until you've made it.
Yeah.
And then everyone asks you how you did it.
Yeah.
And I think that when you're going through the initial process of putting yourself out there online, it's really scary. And even for somebody that is doing it consistently, it's scary.
Yeah.
But for you to build a following from nothing to what you've built in how many years? 3 years?
No, I think, I think less than 2, almost 2.
That's so impressive.
Thank you.
You should be so proud of yourself.
Thank you. It was a lot of hard work. Like it was really hard. Like I feel like people, like when I first started on TikTok, I was posting like 3 to 5 videos a day, like of just like random shit. Like, oh, I really like this primer. Like it's really good, you know, like just the most random stuff. And I think like as I've grown, I've gotten a little bit more formulaic about my videos, and like there's a little bit more information and content, but like it is a constant grind to be churning out that much content. But that's what you needed to do at the time to grow on TikTok quickly.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, it was tough. Like I think even now, like I got a little burnt out of the whole grind for a while. And so now I've like taken a little bit of a step back, and I'm like, okay, I was like scared to not post for one day. And now I'm like, okay, like I'll take a couple of days off, you know, or like instead of posting 3 videos a day, I'm posting like 1. And I will say I'm growing significantly less than I used to be on TikTok. Instagram's like a whole different story, but you do kind of see it. Like I can tell that I'm not putting as much work into it, and therefore I'm not getting as much out of it. But I'm like, from a mental standpoint, I can't keep doing that. Like it just had to stop sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now talk to me about what the transition was like for your mental health, leaving corporate America, doing something that obviously you love and you wanted to grow it, but those are 2 totally separate industries, different skill sets. And also when I said that like your intelligence is unbelievable, no wonder you finance girly, like that's amazing. Yeah. But those are just 2 totally different fields. And I know there's a lot of our listeners that are in corporate America, and there's a lot of our listeners that are content creators.
Yes.
And I think there's that gap there where people assume that, oh, content creators, like you get to make your own schedule and do whatever you want. It can't be that hard on your mental health. But then you look at corporate girlies too, and it's like having a very structured 9 to 5. Like that's hard on your mental health as well. So how did you notice that transition for you?
Oh my God, there's like so many facets of this that we could talk about. I would like to start with the fact that when you wake up every morning to multiple people telling you that you're like ugly or dumb or stupid, never going to be great for your mental health. Like even if like, no, don't like thick skin, fine, whatever. I think I have pretty thick skin. I'm incredibly confident in myself. I know that those things that people are saying about me are not true, but like even still those like tiny little cortisol spikes that you get every day from having to see these things like said about you, and like I usually like block them or delete them or whatever. It's never my job to convince you to like me. It's not my job. Like if you don't like me, you don't need to be here. Like I'll happily guide you to the door, you know? But like that really gets to you. And it's just like seeing that all the time, multiple times a day is a lot. So that's kind of one aspect. In terms of the structuring from like a 9 to 5 to doing it on your own, I would say like for the first, you know, few months, and I really tried to treat it as like a job. Like I'm a very type A person. I'm like, I just did my Enneagram. I'm like an AW7 and I'm Virgo. So I'm very like a woman with a plan, I will say. And so I tried to like wake up every morning at a certain time, structure my day, and like had objectives. And I still every single night write out like, what am I filming tomorrow? What do I have to do from a collab standpoint? Like my Notion goes crazy. But it is really hard to keep yourself on a schedule when you have literally no one that is reporting to you or like anyone that cares. And sometimes it does, like, you know, you're always at the will of the algorithm. Sometimes it does seem that literally no one cares. And so I'm like, what's the point? Like, why am I putting so much effort into this? But what's crazy about content, and I will say that, like, it is an awesome job to have. It is so cool. Like, when I worked at Sephora during college, the best part was like getting gratis. That's literally why I stayed, which is like getting free product every month. And now I get, like, it's like Christmas every day. I get products sent to me every single day. It's like the best thing I've ever done. Brandon always jokes that it's the only reason why I'm not broke right now. But it's like, it's such an awesome job to have, and like being able to have a platform. And I think it's really cool that I get to educate people on things like hormone health and like clean beauty and all that jazz. And it's such a cool place to be. But on the other hand, like, I am working more than I've ever worked in my life before. Like, I have more on my plate than ever before. My stress levels, like, it stresses me out to think about my stress levels, because I'm like, oh my God, I know how bad it is for your body. And I'm like, this is an unsustainable way to live. But I'm like, I don't see how this is ever going to lessen in the future. It's only going to probably get worse unless I can like really hire a lot of people and delegate a lot of tasks to others. But like, I wake up every day and I probably film 4 or 5 videos, and I'm editing until I go to bed at night at like midnight.
There's no off button.
No, and you don't get weekends.
No.
You're going on vacation. Guess what? That's content, baby. Like, you have to set those boundaries, but then it's like, it's always so stressful because I'm like, okay, well, if I don't film as much, or like say I'm going to set a boundary, like, it's when you're in this growth phase, which admittedly I will probably be for a very, very long time. Like, there are very few people that like really blow up, like Alix Earle, like we were talking about, who, and I mean, even she talks about it, like, it took so long for her to get to where she is, but that level of fame is very sustainable for her, right? Yeah. Like, she doesn't need to be like constantly worrying like, oh my gosh, how am I going to grow? I haven't gotten, all these things. But if I'm not posting content all the time, or like churning out really quality content often, like, that's what's going through my mind. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to be able to make this a sustainable career for myself. And now that I've, quit corporate America and gone, like dove right in, like, that's it. Like, I have to make this work. There's no other option. So it is a little stressful.
I resonate with so much of what you're saying. And I'm also a Virgo, that like a woman with a plan, and you're also hard on yourself in the sense of, I said this is going to be my career. So it's going to be my career, and I'm going to be sustainable, and I'm going to make as much money as I possibly can. But somebody like Alix Earle, yes, she's still consistent with it, but not in that growth mode. She doesn't have to be. Yeah. Because people are coming no matter what. Yeah. And it's really hard, like you said, you're stressed about your stress, that creating those boundaries is really difficult, especially surrounding your phone. But you touched on the mean and hateful comments too, which that honestly is something that I haven't experienced very much. Really? I so did a lot when I first started my social media. I was not a content creator. I mean, influencers really weren't even a thing when I first got Instagram, that it was like I was just sharing my day and like putting those god awful filters on it and like just having a grand old time. And then when I competed at Miss USA is when I got the nastiest comments ever. And I hid for literally a year.
Are you serious?
I did not post anything. I didn't show my body because that was such a topic of people's conversation. Really? That it was like, I'm never doing this again.
Were they like, was it like mean comments on Instagram, or like how did this like get into your purview? It was a little bit on Instagram. It was at the time, what I assume like Reddit. I've never been on Reddit for a reason, because everyone feels like they get destroyed on Reddit. But it was a similar format to Reddit, but it was for title holders. So it was solely just talking about women that like were for like pageant, for pageantry and Miss USA. And I had competed in my first ever pageant when I did Miss Arizona USA. Like, it wasn't something I was used to. And I was so insecure preparing for Miss USA that I was already in my head. And then seeing those comments was just 10 times more painful. And I know that I obviously did not handle it well. I'm like, okay, you don't like me, that's fine. I'll just crawl in a hole and never show anything ever. Yeah. And that's not sustainable either. But ever since I kind of came back, I
second guess what I put out there and how much I put out there because I'm worried that will come back.
Yeah.
But I've also tried to cultivate a very safe space, but it also doesn't go viral because the topics I'm talking about are not sexy. Like, nobody's going to be like, mental health, yep, confidence, yep, you know?
I know.
And so I like am on that line all the time between like growth, and in order to grow, you do have to talk about stuff that like are going to bring haters and the trolls.
Yeah.
And I've had to work really hard on like building myself up enough to be able to handle that because I don't know that I would handle it as well as you do.
Yeah. I don't know if I handle it well either. Honestly, it just like happens so often that I'm just like, you know what? It is kind of what it is, but like, I don't love it. But I made a post about this the other day, and it was, so my videos auto upload from TikTok to YouTube Shorts. They cut off at a minute. I don't think anyone watches them all the way through because no one ever comments like, why is your video cut off? So I'm like, you're like, I'm just gonna, let's automate this. Yeah, but it, it's there. So like, it is what it is. It's fine. But like, YouTube has this feature where if you click on someone's name in the comment, it'll show you every other comment that they've ever left on your videos, right? So this woman is like just popping off about my face. She's like, you are so ugly. Like, your duck lips are huge. You need to like leave, right? Okay. And I click on her little name, and she's left like 9 other comments on every single freaking video I've posted lately, only talking about my lips on this video, right? So I respond, as I do sometimes on YouTube, because honestly, like, that's kind of where I just kind of let shit fly. I'm like, people sometimes need to be told that this is not acceptable to do.
Yes, they do.
Like, I don't understand why we decided it was, but it's absolutely not. But anyway, so I was like, hey, ma'am, like, seems like you're a little obsessed with my face. What's going on here? And she was like, oh, well, I just like thought you were really ugly and I need to come back here to make sure you still were. And I was like, that is so fucking crazy to me that you, as like just another human being, would be willing to say that to someone. And I'm like, my video was essentially like this. And I was like, imagine you're sitting at coffee with your friend, right? And because after that, I was like, hey, that's like really not acceptable to say to people. It's really rude, right? And I was like, imagine you take your friend to coffee and you're like, oh my God, you won't believe the situation I'm having right now with this girl that does TikToks. Like, okay, here's her video. Look at her. Okay, so like, first off, I said, hey, you're really ugly. Your lips are huge and they look like ducks. And she was like, hey, that's like kind of mean. And I was like, well, fuck you, right? Imagine if you said that to your friend. Your friend would probably be like, excuse, what? You said, why'd you say that? Like, that is crazy to be living life on like that low vibration. And it's like, I just cannot let that like energy into my life. Like, I don't need to fight with them about it. And that's why I just like block them and move on, because they're never going to think they're wrong. Like, they always think they're right. And it's like, that just really blows my mind. And what's funny is all the comments that were on that video were all so sweet, right? Because I posted it on TikTok. Well, I never saw what the comments were on YouTube, but I posted on TikTok, and that's where I have probably the strongest community, and everyone was like, yeah, but here's the thing. Her friend's probably going to say the same thing, because like, you attract other people that are also on the same like low vibration. I was like, oh, you're probably so right. But It's crazy. Like, I would never say something like that to someone.
Never. Ever. And can you imagine being in such a terrible mental space and feeling so terrible about yourself that it brings you joy to find somebody that you do not know and make sure that you go above and beyond to hurt them?
Yeah. It is really like, I genuinely feel like any sort of comment like that truly comes from like deep-seated insecurity that maybe they do or do not recognize. And so I do kind of like feel for them a little bit. And I don't really like, that's why I don't fight with them as much, because I'm just like, look, like, something's happening over there. And like, I really hope that that's something that you figure out sometime. I don't love that it's personally affecting me now, but like, I really do. Like, I mean, anytime that you really talk about someone, and I've like talked in therapy about this, and like, I've seen this in myself too. Like, if there's something that I want to say about someone that's negative, I have to think and be like, okay, what am I missing in my life that I admire in them that is making me feel like I don't like them, or like I'm like intimidated? It's usually like I'm intimidated by them, whether it's like they seem genuinely really happy making like the content that they're making, or I'm like, why are they grow, like, why are her videos doing so well? You know, it's like, comparison is the thief of joy, in my opinion. But like, I really have to think like, what am I seeing in them that I envy? Because that's usually why I'm saying something mean, if I am. and usually, let's just say, I'm not saying it to people, nor am I ever going to tell them, but
right.
like thinking it, you know?
Girl, your self-awareness. Clearly, if you're in therapy, you know, and I'm a big advocate for therapy.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is something that I had to recognize, because even though I would never vocalize anything to somebody else to try and tear them down, comparison, like you said, is the thief of joy. And you can feel that deep within when you have that insecurity or that jealousy. And all it's doing is negatively affecting you and holding you back. So I think the fact that you're able to be in tune with that and not let it hold you back and are actively working against it, like, just speaks to how you carry yourself as well. Because I feel like you come off as not just such a confident person, like we were talking in the beginning.
You're so sweet.
But such a kind and such a hype girl, and you're always in people's corners. And I think that the people that show up for others and encourage them and love on them, even when they could be viewed as quote unquote competition, is a beautiful quality.
Yeah.
And that's maturity, and that's female empowerment, and that's what I'm looking for in life. And like, I could go on my high horse about this all day long, because it's like when you find your people, it's like, yes. And one last thought that I just had, you brought up Courtney Shields, and I don't know her personally, but love Dibs, love her content. And she had said something about how like my DMs and my page are not a safe space for trolls in 2024. Like, I will put you on blast.
Yeah.
And I love that she can protect her mental health in that way, because hopefully it gets people to not do it, but it's also like giving attention to negativity. How do you feel about that? Like, do you notice it when you do clap back? Is it like,
it's so hard, because like I want, like, you want to, right?
Yeah.
Like when someone says something so mean and negative to you, you want to say something back to them. Like, that is just human nature, right? I think that for me, first of all, I will say that she gets like probably multiple X times more comments like this than I do a day. So like in the scale, I have to deal with it much less. So I feel like, it happens over and over. And also she'll have people that like come back over and over again and like make new accounts, and like you can tell that they're the same person. So like she's dealing with it on a whole other level.
Bored.
I know.
Do you have to be?
I don't know. But like, honestly, she's so strong. She's such a strong woman, and her confidence is through the roof. So she like, it's incredible that she can handle this. And like, honestly, if that's like, I think it's hilarious. Like, I think it's great. Like, keep going. I know that for me, I've never been in a spot where I've like actively argued with them and felt better about it after. So like, I've always, cause then your heart rate is racing, and you're like waiting for them to respond, and you're like, oh my God, what are they going to say? And then obviously they're not going to be like, oh, you're right, my bad. Like, they're going to say something worse, right? And then you're like, argument. And like, for me, that's not the mental place that I would like to be in. Like, it's just so much easier for me to like block them and move on than it is to like entertain it. But like, Kennedy Urick does the same thing, where like, again, has it on a much greater scale than I do, and like, people are saying like the craziest things about her. And if I were her, I'd probably be like, yeah, like you guys should know that I will tell people that you're being a really, really mean person, and maybe you'll like think about it a little more next time you have the idea that you want to do it. So like, I think they're more than fair to do it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's kind of like the thing where everyone's like, what do they all say? It's like, it comes with the territory. Like, you have to be able to go through it because this is your job. But I'm like, I didn't really sign a contract saying that was part of the job.
No.
I'm a little confused, where we got to all live at like a lower level of like human decency.
Humanity.
Just because I have this job. Like, I don't really get it. Like, I'm literally just trying to tell you like a cute lipstick to buy. Like, I don't really understand why that's the way, you know what I mean? I'm
totally.
Like, I'm just trying to make your foundation last all day. Like, why are we talking about me? Like, I don't get it. It's just like, I would never. So it just like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And I genuinely don't think I know anyone who is living in that space where it's like, I will like make burner accounts and like, comment like crazy shit on people. Like, no, I don't think I'm like in the purview of anyone that's doing that. So I can't really relate or understand at all, but I mean, more power to them. I just can't do it for my own mental, can't take it.
Yeah. You got to protect your peace.
Yeah.
And the whole, it comes with the territory, that always just like irks me. And I'm like, there is no excuse for belittling or bullying somebody and hiding behind a screen. Like, just never okay.
No.
Well, I could talk about this all day because now I'm all worked up. I'm like,
I know,
people
right?
are being mean to my friend and I'm pissed about it.
Yeah, I'm raising our cortisol just talking about it.
Well, then shifting. You said that you wanted to really build your account because you saw that you could have a built-in demographic when you did want to launch something of your own.
Yes.
I am so amazed and impressed by what you are launching. So first dive in to Suede Skin and tell the people all about it.
Okay, so Suede Skin. Suede Skin came out of a few things. So I was on birth control since I was 14. I had cysts on my ovaries. That was their plan. And cool. Honestly, thought nothing of it. I don't think anyone really did at the time. I think we were thinking a little bit more about it now, but that was just what you do. You turn 13, 14, 15, whatever, you get on birth control and away you go.
I did the same thing.
Yeah. So when I moved to Austin, I had decided that I didn't want to be on birth control anymore. So I stopped taking it and did not get my period for like 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, like maybe 3 or 4. And I was like, it was always kind of in the back of my mind where it's like, oh, maybe I should like do something about this. Like maybe like, but I was like, oh, I just don't want to I don't want to have to deal with it, you know? Like I was over here thinking I was like infertile or something crazy, but no, I was not infertile, whatever. Anyway, so I have PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is really a description of a symptom, not necessarily a disease. So usually there's like various symptoms that you can have. The most common one is not having a regular period. So there's also a lot of reasons why this can happen. The number one reason is generally insulin resistance. So that is like kind of like prediabetes essentially. So that's super common. I got a continuous glucose monitor, which is what they give diabetics and pre-diabetics, stuck in the back of my arm, did all kinds of food tests. I am not insulin resistant. So I was like, okay, that is not me. And like I've also started doing this all just kind of through like research and random, like I was kind of like guiding myself through this. It wasn't until like a couple of years in where I actually like got with a doctor and we like really worked this out, but wasn't insulin resistance. So and Brandon's gonna be mad if he hears me talking about this guy I used to date. But when I first got to Austin, I was dating this guy who was a little bit older than me and really psycho about food. And I thought he was crazy. Like he was like paleo and like wouldn't eat any carbs or anything. And like I feel like you probably grew up the same way, where when you're a woman and you're young, you think like a calorie is a calorie, calories are bad, fat is bad. Like, you know, I would eat like a bag of Skittles because I was like, well, it fits in my daily calorie allowance for the day. But I'm like, oh my gosh, what a terrible thing you could do, because I didn't know anything about like, you know, glucose sensitivity or like glycemic index. I didn't know anything about that, right? I just thought like one Skittle equals, you know, however many calories and like whatever else. So we did not date for long, but he was always trying to like get me to listen to these podcasts about like, it was like the Huberman Lab and like things like that. And I was like, yeah, like whatever, right? And eventually I was walking my dog so much around Austin because everyone loves walking in Austin. And I would put these podcasts on and I was like, oh, there's something going on here. Okay, like I'm getting it. Like I just completely shifted how I was eating, like changed everything in terms of like my mindset towards food, which is honestly like a whole different podcast, I feel like, for me. But that started happening. And when you're in that space and like educating yourself within kind of that realm of podcasts that's like very health oriented, you start learning about like how hormones are integrated in everything and endocrine disruptors. And that is how I kind of started thinking about it. And when I was thinking about it in relation to my PCOS, I was like, okay, let's go over my day, right? I wake up and I get in the shower and I wash my body with this super synthetically fragranced body wash that likely has endocrine disruptors in it. And then I get out and I like slather myself in Bum Bum cream, which is also super synthetically fragranced and does not rate very well on any sort of like, is it toxic or not app at all.
Well, shit, I have that on my body right now.
Oh, keep going. I'm so sorry. It smells good, but keep going. Okay. And then, okay, so cool. Do that. And then, you know, I slather my, like I was a huge perfume girl. I love perfume. So I would like, you know, douse myself in my like favorite fragrance of the day. And I had like a collection of probably 100 perfumes. Like I love perfume. And I mean, like I worked at Sephora. Like I'm a beauty girly. I love that stuff. Right. And I just started thinking about it, and I was like, dang, every single thing I do throughout the day is more or less terrible for my hormones. And I was like, man, I really got to start thinking about like doing something else. And I kind of started with body care. So I cut out fragrances, which was like literally the saddest day of my life. But I cut out all of my fragrances. So I put all my perfumes in a corner, whatever. And I love a good DIY. I don't know why.
I do too.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a Virgo thing. I don't know.
Like I've always like would dye my hair myself. Like I've tried cutting my hair, that didn't go so well. But like I love a good DIY. So I was like, okay, well, why don't I like order some, coconut oil, shea butter, whatever. Let's like make my own lotion. Like let's have some fun with this. And I did that and made a video about it. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, you should make this a line. And at the time I was like, yeah, that would be really cool. But the formula just wasn't really there for me. Because if you've ever put on coconut oil, and you know how it just doesn't really ever sink into your skin. Yeah. Like it's definitely just like getting on everything that you touch, all of your clothing, everything. And I was like, I love this idea. I think that would be like very intrinsic to me and my brand. However, I just don't think it's quite there yet. So I've, over the past couple of years of going on this like cleaner body care situation journey, I've been trying like all various types of almost like lotion bases. So from like coconut to mango butter, shea butter, all that jazz. I kind of eventually ended up on beef tallow, which is like grass-fed beef tallow. Essentially, it's like really well rendered down and cleaned beef fat to the point of where it smells kind of sweet. It doesn't smell like beef or anything, depending on like where you get it from, because some people render it down better and like clean it better than others. And like, if you're using it for cooking, it's probably fine if it tastes a little bit like beef, but you don't want your body to smell like beef.
I was going to say, no, not quite.
No, that's not the vibe.
That's not the fragrance that we want.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely not the vibe. So from going to Bum Bum Cream to beef jerky, that would be so sly. But so I ended up on beef tallow because it sinks in really, really well. So it mimics the natural moisture barrier of your skin. So it really sinks in, but it also kind of leaves like a soft layer on top, which like I love a good like body gloss. I'm a body gloss girl, so I wanted it to have both of those things in it. So ended up on beef tallow, and I was like, okay, this is the direction we're gonna go in. So I think I've probably been through 15 different formulations of it with currently place-sourced beef tallow. So like I've gotten some from Amazon, which were horrible quality. Do not buy your beef tallow on Amazon. I've gotten a bunch from Etsy, which is really where you can find like the best quality ones that are sourced from like small organic farms. And I've kind of been through various formulations of like what kind of essential oils am I using in it. There's a lot of people that are allergic to essential oils because essentially what it is a very concentrated version of whatever thing they derive that from. And if you're allergic in any way to that one thing, it's going to be like a hypersensitivity to the essential oil.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I kind of went through that whole vibe with all the essential oils and ended up just being like pure vanilla. That's the way to go. So after all of these things, and like I tried to get a lab to do it. I don't know if I talked to you about this, where I was going to have a lab do it, and every single form, and I already provided him the formulation, like the formula was set, and he had sent me 4 samples over the course of like 5 months it took him to make these 4. Every single one was so horrible.
What?
So horrible. So I was just like, fuck it, like I'll do it myself. Like it's fine. Worst case, we scale. Like it'll be fine. I'm sure I can figure it out. So yeah, so that was kind of like took you through a loop, and it's really hard to get a lab to actually manufacture beef tallow because it's such a kind of unused ingredient generally, and it's also an animal product. So if you are like a PETA certified lab, for instance, or like a clean lab, oftentimes they won't work with animal products because it wouldn't make them clean anymore. So a lot of kind of variances, and that was a very long-winded answer to your question, but there's a lot of like nuances about working with beef tallow, but I think that's also like the exciting part of it. Like
uncharted territory.
Yeah, because the whole reason why I really wanted to make Suede Skin, because there are beef tallow lotions that exist out there. You can buy them, but they're ugly. Like they're really ugly. Like I think the most popular one on Amazon is called the Van Man, and it's literally in an aluminum tin with a van on the front. And I'm like, that's not going on the counter, babes.
No, that is not the vibe.
Yeah, so we're trying to make beef tallow for the girlies. Make a little beef tallow for the girlies. It's luxe. It's going to come in this gorgeous like custom glass jar with this amazing like aluminum lid. There's going to be no plastic on it, like touching it at all, and there's going to be like a little custom stainless steel spatula that magnetizes to the top of the jar lid.
You thought of it all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all I've been doing is staring at stuff for like so long. You know, I've been going through so many beauty products in my life that like now I know like what I love and what I think is cool. So like I actually got the magnetized from a company called Pharmacy. They have a honey halo face balm that magnetizes the spoon to the top of it. And I was like, man, that would be really, really cool if we could do that, because it's the only brand I've ever seen. But you like take these little pieces of each thing and kind of bring it in as an amalgamation to make your perfect little brand.
So you are getting the jars manufactured, and then when you get them, you are formulating and putting everything in it yourself.
Yeah.
That's badass.
Oh,
that's awesome.
To me, it just sounds like it's going to be a lot of work.
It's going to be a ton of work, but also how cool.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know anybody that starts that way. Mm-hmm. And then once you do scale, like, how cool that you've been involved in literally every single element.
Yeah. And I also think it's going to be great for my little OCD self who really wants to be able to like do quality control, especially because tallow, like it's only, I think there's 5 ingredients in the lotion, right? It's super natural. There's no stabilizers. There's no, there's no shelf stabilizers or preservatives. The best thing we have there is non-GMO vitamin E, which is technically a shelf stabilizer, but also beef tallow has a natural shelf life of a year. So like it's not going to expire in like 2 months, which is great. A year is pretty standard for most products that are sitting on the shelves at Sephora. But yeah, I really want to be able to control it from like start to finish. And I also think because I did I guess for y'all who probably don't know, I already started a hat company called Lone Star Locals that's all about making cute Austin hats because we don't have any. We deserve a cute Austin hat. And I think the best lesson I learned from that was not to over-order your inventory in the beginning. And all of these labs that I was working with, and even like the jar companies, everyone is like, you need to have an MOQ of 10,000. I'm like, that is such a bad idea.
Yeah.
Such a bad idea. And even though like I do have a platform and I've been working on creating this brand in front of my followers for so long, and I've been like priming them for me to launch this brand, and that's like the whole point. 10,000, that's like,
it's a lot.
Yeah, that's a horrible idea. Horrible. So I'm like, this will allow me to control the amount for as long as possible. And I also think it's like great from a marketing perspective because there's going to be like scarcity and it's going to be on like a drop system. And I can also like plan ahead and do pre-orders and see like how much the demand really is going to, like what it's going to shake out to. And then I can, go from there. Like worst case, I hire people and rent an industrial kitchen. Like it's fine. It'll be fine.
What I love so much, one of the things that I love so much about you is that you just figure it out. And like you said earlier, when you want to do something, you're like, yes, I'm doing it. And I'm probably doing it like tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I think so many people wait until they meet the right people to help them, or they have the right idea that's going to be it, or X, Y, and Z. They delay. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you haven't done that and you're like, nope, we're just going to make this work. And if it scales and it grows, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Everything is figure outable.
Yeah.
Like
I genuinely think that. Like I think that you can figure anything out. Like it's gonna be fine as long as like I just need a product out there. And it was kind of the same thing with Lone Star Locals, where like it was taking so long to find a supplier that made the hat because I wanted a very specific hat with a very specific shape, because I was not going to settle for any less. There was one brand of hats that I already loved that had the best trucker hat in my opinion. I was like, if it's not that hat, it's not going to work, and no one would do it. Or it was like I was gonna have to order like thousands of them, and I was like, okay, well that's also not going to work. So I ended up going with a supplier that actually cost me a lot more money than it should have to do the embroidery, because embroidery is expensive, especially if you're doing it in the US. But I was like, look, I need something out there. Like we can work on figuring out how to bring this cost down later, but I just want to start it and launch it and like get it going. And that's kind of how I feel about Suede too, where it's like, they have been waiting for so long. My followers have been waiting for so long for me to launch this. I have been waiting for so long for me to launch this. I'm tired of talking about it. Like, I just want to be able to show someone a finished product and be like, this is it. You can buy it. Like, you can buy it online, But, yeah, like, it's not going to be perfect. but it's going to be released, and that's what matters. And like, as we go, we'll make it perfect. Like, will it ever really be perfect? Like, is anything really ever perfect? No. Probably not. But like, you know,
you launch and then you adjust.
Yeah, we're gonna get as close to it as possible. And like, if people are getting it and they're like, oh hey, it's 130 degrees in Austin, it's melted, then like, great, then we'll figure that out too. Like, then we'll ship with a lifestyle. You know, there's like, you can always figure out, maybe that's a consultant in me. I'm like,
part consultant, and I also think it comes back to confidence.
Yeah.
That I think you have enough confidence in yourself that you've never been in a situation in your life that you haven't figured it out. So why in the future would you be in a situation where you can't figure it out?
Well, it's also like, other people launched brands. Other people have done it. Why can't I do it? Like, you know, it's obviously a lot harder when you're doing it yourself. Like, it's so... like, you have to go find like every single component of this brand that I'm also like, I'm getting everything custom because I want it to be able to live up to that like luxury price point that it will be at. But it, like, you know, the girlies like nice things. So like, the jar is going to be glass. It's a custom made glass jar. The lid is also custom. The little spoon that's going on top is going to be engraved. That's also custom. That, like, there's a million different suppliers for every little thing. But like, I guarantee someone's done this before. Like, I know that there are people that have also gone through the same thing. Why can't I do it? It's just, you have to be able to keep a really detailed spreadsheet with all the logistical parts of it. Yeah.
Very detailed.
I think it's going to be worth it. Like, I know it's really hard right now and it's difficult and frustrating, but in the end, I'm going to be very proud that I put all of this work into it and like made it into something that I really believe in and love. So yeah.
You will be. And you brought up Lone Star Locals, which we have to talk about the fact that you just had Alix Earle partying in your hat.
I know, that's so cool. Honestly, that was like props to Katie for doing that. She was standing in the right place at the right time, and she really went for it, which I love her for this. But yeah, so Unwell had their event in South by this weekend, which was so awesome. Katie, I'm like, swear she had the notifications on for them announcing.
She was ready.
Yeah, she was so ready. Luckily we're actually at the Dainty Dillo on the east side. So we were already on the east side, and Unwell, the like house, they'd released the address, it was on the east side. She immediately calls this Uber, and we're like literally running to the Uber. We get there within 7 minutes, there's already a line. We're like, swell, that's awesome. But like, you know, daddy gang runs steep. So we got there at 4. Katie was like, okay, well, the doors open at 7. I was like, excusez-moi, Katie? What do you mean?
What do you mean?
7. And she was like, yeah, we'll just wait. And I was like, wait, what? And she was, okay, whatever. Anyway, we're like essentially arguing about whether we're going to wait here for so long that it's already 5. And I was like, well, fuck, we might as well just wait now. So my fiance comes and hangs out with us for a little bit, brings my dog. We're just literally sitting on the ground. There's a wine bar next door. We're literally like pre-gaming this, like just sit, like there's nothing else to do, you know? And then her fiance comes and brings us all the hats, and we brought like a few extra, and then we had to put them in bags, wrote them little notes, whatever. So we were waiting there, and then we finally get in. I think it was like 7:30 when they finally let us in. And I'm pretty, like, I don't know about Katie, but I was drunk already. But we
drunk and ready.
Yeah, oh, we were ready. Nothing better could have happened, and I had to pee so bad. Let me just tell you, it was horrible. But anyway, so we get in, and the girl that's putting on our wristbands is like, "Oh my gosh, are you Catherine?" And I was like, "Yeah." She recognized me from TikTok, and I was like, "Fuck." Yes. So
full circle.
I know. I was like, okay, incredible. Do you work with Alix and Alix? And she was like, yeah, I do. And I was like, wait, can you give her or them these bags? And she was like, yes, absolutely. I got you. And I was like, what a joy, right? But then Katie and I were like, well, what if they don't get them? Like tonight or ever? I mean, you don't know. You know,
yeah,
it's
you
like
never know.
There's like a million things going on. You like kind of small potatoes to bring them these hats. But Katie, being the smart little girl she was standing up at the stage at the exact, she was like, oh, I think they're going to come this way, because these were like the stairs leading up to the stage. So she was like, obviously they're going to be walking up these stairs to get up to the stage and be like, hey, everyone, you know, address the crowd and all that jazz. So they do that. Alix, Earle, and Braxton like are walking right in front of her, and they're like stopping and talking to people, and Katie takes the hat off her head and is like, hey, like, this is my hat brand. I would love for you to wear it and like have it. And she puts it on, and she's like partying in the hat and has like a bunch of photos in it. It was super cute.
Seize the freaking moment.
I know. I was like, what an absolute joy. Like, totally. I mean, honestly, it was worth it standing in the line even if that didn't happen, because it was such a sick event. It was so well done.
It looked so, I'm so jealous that I didn't go.
Oh, you should have gone.
Didn't get in. Well, once I literally called the restaurant that was close by, and I'm like, hey, how long is the line? They're like, long. I'm like, I'm not going.
Oh yeah, it was quite long. You could have cut with me though. But
Girl,
if only. But yeah, it was the sickest event ever, and it would have been really awesome even if that didn't happen. But I was like, damn, what a really cool moment to have at South Bay, and like claps to Katie for doing that. She really was on it.
For real. And your passion for Austin clearly runs deep because you have an Austin hat company.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's called Lone Star Locals. I'm not from Austin nor Texas, so like don't come for me. But Katie is, and she's my co-founder. She's from Corpus Christi, so we've got it. It's fine. But also like that's kind of the vibe of Austin. Like no one's really from here anyway. But yeah, I mean, this all came back because we're like, you walk up and down South Congress. It's such a touristy place. Mm-hmm. Everyone's here for like a bachelorette party or something, or South by, and there's no cute hats to buy. Everything is heinous, so ugly. And I'm like, why are there no cute hats for the girls? And I was like, you know what? I'll make a hat. I thought it was going to be way easier than it was, but.
You're like, so when I said I was going to do that, I thought it was really easy.
Yeah, no, I was like, how hard can it be? It's a hat, right? No, it can be hard.
Yeah, it can be quite hard.
Yeah, that one was like, great learning experience though. Like I'm so glad that I started Lone Star Locals first to see like every single logistical thing like that you need in order to sell things.
Yeah.
And like, so now I feel like I'm so much more well-versed with suede. Like we were like buying our boxes to ship the hats in like off of Amazon.
Oh,
and I'm like, how do I get like a ton of
boxes?
And I have like 700 boxes in my garage. But it's like these little things that you don't think about. Or like if you want custom kitting, like how do you make those, like how do you set that up? How do you make those purchases? Like what are you going to put in the boxes to make it like look special, all these things you have to think about. But
details.
Even like taxes,
Yeah.
It's a touchy subject right now.
That's a real touchy subject. Yeah. We don't have enough time.
No.
We can't go into that. So you've brought up your fiance. I know that you are newly-ish engaged, right?
I was literally this is my travel ring. Don't look at it.
Really?
Yeah,
he's so beautiful.
So he actually he bought this for me because it was our I guess 2-year anniversary. I literally don't know. I'm so sorry. 2 or 3 year anniversary. Anyway, he wanted to get me a travel ring, or more so, I've been asking for one for a long time. And I picked this one out. It's from Etsy. It's 14 karat gold and moissanite, right? And this was actually essentially a replica of a ring that I actually wanted for my engagement, like my real engagement ring. But it's so unique that I was like, God, what if I hate it someday? So I went with an east-west oval that has 2, and I usually stack it with 2 chunky gold rings around it, and I love that.
Beautiful.
But this he got, because we just came back from Mexico, he got for the Mexico trip, but it didn't come in time, so now I've been wearing it, and he's like, are you ever put the other one back on? And I'm like, yeah, and I was like, hey babe, you know how like I wear different necklaces and I like change them out a lot? And he was like, yeah, and I was like, well, I'll like, when I'm tired of wearing this one, I'll put the other one back on. He was like, okay. But like this one's really cool. Like don't tell me that doesn't
really
look
cool.
Like,
that's stunning. If you're looking at this, like, yep, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's just
it is unique. I've never seen one like that before.
Yeah, and I will say, like, I'm glad I did the other ring because I probably would get kind of tired of this. But I'm like, hey, if anyone needs a travel ring, like a backup ring, like this is a good one.
Yep, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. Yeah. What is your husband, or not husband? Fiance.
My fiance's name is Brandon, and he is actually in Toronto right now because he works for Accenture. He is a consultant, and he has been a traveling consultant for about 6 months now, and I'm over it. I'm so over it. I think he's actually getting off the project this week, which is really fantastic because I'm quite tired of living in a house by myself with my 2 dogs, especially when you don't go to work.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's not like super great, but yeah, what's funny is he has a very similar job to the job that I had, but he actually was an engineer in college, which I love because I'm
just some smarties.
Yeah. No, he's so smart. He CAD designed me and 3D printed me the jar for
That's right, you told me that. That's iconic.
It was so great. I was like, wow, you just saved me a lot of money. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm really trying to get him to be my first employee, and he's like, that's such a bad idea. And I'm like, it'll be fine. It's fine. But like, he knows me so well, right? He knows I'm like, would probably not be the best person to work with. Probably wouldn't be the best thing for our relationship.
Saving your relationship ahead of time.
Yeah, but I'm like, if Lauren and Michael can do it, so can we.
I'm so impressed by people that can work with their significant others. I love it. I love my husband to death. I don't think we could work together.
Yeah.
You know, just different skill sets.
Yeah, I have no idea how they do it, but I think I'm going to try and find out at some point. So
yeah, we should ask them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
sure
they
just
have many times. Just take a small leave of absence. Like
just a little
just
one.
a small one. It'll be like so fun. Think of everything you'll learn. But yeah, no, he's fantastic. We actually met in Bungalow. I don't know if you were here when Bungalow existed.
No.
Okay, so Bungalow was like objectively the best bar on Rainy Street. And it was kind of like the last straw of them tearing it down to when Rainy Street just became somewhere no one go. Well, maybe it was the murderer. I'm not really sure which one came first, but both didn't help, right? Both did not help, but we were both there. So we were in separate friends groups, but definitely like adjacent. So we had like a lot of mutual friends. We were both there for our friend's birthday, and we were there. And I'm going to a friend. I'm like, hey, happy birthday, whatever. He was already there, and she's like, hey, Catherine, I have someone I think you would really like. And I was like, oh my God, no way. Who is it? We love a little setup sleigh, right? And she was like, that guy over there. And I was like, Morgan. And she was like, what? And I was like, how many shots do you think it would take for me to say yes to that? And she was like, how many? I was like, 5. And I was already drunk, right? So that was supposed to be very insulting. It was kind of a bad insult, but whatever. But not 2 minutes prior to that interaction I had with Morgan, had I just spent like the last 5 minutes screaming at Brandon because it was kind of cold outside, like cold for Austin. It was probably like 60 degrees. But I was asking him to turn on this outdoor heater, like, you know, the whatever. And I was like, can you like figure this out? Like, good, whatever. And he was like, no, it's not turning on. I was like, why is it? And he was like, there's no propane tank in it. And I was like, then go get one. And he was like, I don't fucking work here. And I was like, I don't care. So it was like not a great interaction. It was not a great first impression. I would say it was not love at first sight, but apparently he thought I was really cute because he continued to pursue me after that very mean interaction. But I think it gave him pretty, you know, solid idea of what living with me might look like. Yeah. So he was primed and ready in the beginning.
That's what I'm saying. He chose this life.
Yeah, exactly. He actively chose it. He saw what it could have been and he was like, you know what? I'll deal with that. And like,
yep, I'll take her.
That's honestly what I love the most about him, because I will say, like, I'm not the easiest person to be with. I am very strong-headed. Like, I am very stubborn. I am very my way or the highway, baby. Like, I will never think you're right, and I know that about myself. And I haven't tried too hard to change it, but I know.
Again, a self-aware queen. At least she knows.
At least I know.
At least you're not like, no, I'm not.
Oh, yeah. No, I do know. I'm like a little hard to live with. But yeah, he was just like so down. But I love that about him, because a lot of the relationships I've had in the past haven't worked out quite well, because I will essentially break you down and then be like, why don't you have a backbone? Which is just my specialty. Not saying it's great. And I think a lot of people do this. It's not just me. I know it's not just me. It's not great, though. Terrible thing to do. I think maybe I should have done a little more therapy back then. But he has such a strong backbone, and he like will always be like, you are being literally crazy. Like, you need to settle down. I'm like, okay, fine.
Well, you know what? He puts you in your place and he challenges you, and that's what you needed.
Yeah, he handles it quite well. And I will say, too, I love that he knows like a fully different set of things than what I know. Like, I feel like when you're two people in business and you know the same thing, like, I'm always going to think I'm right. Mm-hmm. And like, it's so incredible that oh my gosh. One of the like my favorite things about him is that he just knows the weirdest shit. Like, he will be walking around and he'll be, I don't know, saying something or like the other day, I put my bone broth in the freezer. It was in a mason jar, right? And I'm like taking it out of the freezer, totally shattered, because the molecules like expand when they're frozen. Oh. And he was like, yeah, like, duh. Like, why'd you put that in the freezer? And I was like, and like, But it's like little like sciencey things like that he just knows from doing all these like material science classes and like engineering classes that he's like, how did you not know that? And I'm like, what do you who knows that? No one knows that. But like, it's really cute. I think that's my favorite thing about him. It's very
love
fun.
That. I love that. And you guys, as of now, wedding planning is kind of on the back burner, right?
It's a moot point at the moment. Yeah, back burner, like, it's not even on the stove. Like, there's no one that's thinking about planning this other than everyone that's asking me. They're the only people that are planning. But if I had like a small piece of a plan put together for every person that did in fact ask me, like, we would have a full wedding at this point. But I mean, I can't do it at the same time of like trying to grow Suede, like trying to launch Suede. I'm also thinking about all the work that it's going to be to like sustain a business, especially from like social media perspective, logistics perspective. Like I just genuinely do not have time. And I've also never been the type of woman or girl, I guess, that thought about her wedding. I've loved a dress, like don't get me wrong, I love a dress. Like I would love a little dress try on moment. Like I think that would be so much fun, but I've never been like, oh, I want a December wedding with like this kind of cake and like all these, like.
I wasn't either.
Yeah.
I get that.
It's just not for me. And so I'm like, I've also, I've been to so many, like none of my friends in Seattle have gotten married yet, but every single person I swear that Brandon knows is married now. But I think it's just like a different
stage of life.
Yeah, but he's younger than me.
Really?
Yeah, he's 26. I'm 28. So
is he a Texas boy?
Yes, that's exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's a state thing.
Yep.
But yeah, so I've been to so many weddings, and I mean, granted, I think because I don't know the people personally and they're like his friends, it's not like as meaningful to me. But I'm kind of like, these are all kind of similar. Like they're all very the same, and I'm like, maybe I'm just a little bit of a prissy princess, and I'm like, I want a really cool wedding. Like if I'm gonna get married, I'm gonna spend all this money on it. Like I want it to be something that's really, really, really cool, and I have not figured out what that would be yet. So until I come up with that idea, I think we're just gonna watch us like not be married until like 35. Like I really don't know. But I'm also like, I just bought a house, and I'm like, babe, who's paying for this wedding? Like you're looking at the wedding. Yeah, like that's the budget.
It's right there.
Yeah, I was like, you see those countertops? Like that's the wedding budget, babe. So yeah, I just like, there's so many things happening in my life right now that I just haven't ever like put aside the time to think about it. And I guess I didn't like consider that when I was like, oh, we should definitely get engaged right now. Then after that, I would then have to plan a wedding. But like, who's making me?
No one. Yeah. Literally no one.
Yeah.
And it's all on your time. And I think that's another thing that when I asked you about it the other day and you're like, oh, let me tell you, nothing. Yeah. And I'm like, that's awesome, because I just don't know anybody else that's had that perspective. Mm-hmm. And you have so many other things going on that you're focused on, and your business and your growth, that I think it's cool that like, you have your person, but that is not your sole focus and priority. And I do think that there's going to be women listening to this that can relate to that, because when you are so business driven and you're so goal oriented, it's okay for that to come first.
Yes. And I think too, some women are different. Some women are like, I want the boyfriend, I want the fiance, I want the husband, I want the kids. Like we're all gonna like get in this lovely little timeline, and that's awesome. I've never even thought I wanted kids. It wasn't until I like met friends with children that I was like, oh, maybe like that might be nice someday. So it's never like, I've always been very goal oriented. It's never been like top of my mind to have children. So like that, and it is kind of like an internal clock, like there is more or less like a timeline. Yeah. I mean, there's like incredible science coming out that's making it a lot easier to have children later on in life, but in general there is, and if like you want to be a younger mom or like something like, like that does kind of come into play for other people. It's not coming into play for me in my mind. So I'm like, dang, like delay the wedding for like 6 years. I see if I care. Like I don't tell Brian. I don't know if he'd like that idea, but like, we had this huge engagement party too with all of our family. So I'm like, what more do people need from me? Yeah. Like you already celebrated us. Like
there you go.
We don't need to make you do it again anytime soon. But yeah, it's just like to me, what's most important to me right now is, making this a very sustainable path for me. Like I will literally die if I have to go join another all hands call ever again in my entire life. I can't do it.
Yeah.
So I just like, I really need to focus on like, it's grind time, on making this work. And I know that I can't balance all of those things at the same time. I literally had a nightmare the other day that I had a baby, and I was like, I can't do this all. And I was like,
and like you brought up, like this society timeline, especially Texas timeline, where I feel like since so many people are moving here, like that timeline's getting a little bit more skewed, but like it was pretty traditional for people to find their person young, even if that meant settling, getting married, having kids, and like a career that worked with that timeline is what they would consider. And giving women permission that it's okay if you don't want that. And it's also okay if you do want that. Yeah. Like there's no right way. And I think I grew up always thinking that had to be the right way. So I always felt like I was doing something wrong because I didn't want that. I didn't want that timeline.
Yeah.
And hearing from other women with other backgrounds than me feeling that same way is validating for me, and I'm sure it's validating for our listeners too.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, I feel like this is becoming a much more common sentiment. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just me and like who I'm surrounding myself with and like what I'm seeing on social media, but I feel like there is so much women empowerment right now, which I love.
Here for it forever.
So I feel like that. I mean, again, it's like with like freezing your eggs, and like it's so much more viable to freeze eggs now than it used to be. Like before, you really had to freeze embryos, and that was like the most viable way to do it. But like now you can freeze eggs, and it's I think it's like 99% like effective now or something like that. It's much more accurate than it used to be. So, you know, those timelines I think are going to be like naturally shifting for everyone. And I also, like you mentioned, have a career that worked with that. I do not fucking know any career that would work with being a full-time mother without help, because like that is your whole damn life. Like, I don't even think I could do influencing successfully and have like a newborn baby. Like, something would be giving. Like, I do not know how people do it. I don't think I could.
Yeah.
So that's just like, whenever my life somehow slows down, if that does happen, or like maybe when I get a little older, I'll get like really that feeling that I really, really, really want that, and I'll like figure out how to reprioritize my life to make that feasible. But yeah, right now it's just not, it's not the priority for me.
Exactly. And that's fine.
Yeah.
And as long as you know your priorities and you have them in your order that works best for you, who cares what anybody else says?
Yeah, as long as Brandon's fine with it.
Right, exactly. I mean, I guess he is like half of the partnership.
Yeah.
So like maybe run it by him. Brandon, let us know what you think.
I mean, we're struggling with 2 dogs. So like, imagine throwing a baby in there. I'm like, I don't think he could do it either.
Yo, I will die on this hill that like there's nothing that prepares you more for that than when you have a dog.
Yeah.
Like, it is.
Have you ever had 2?
Never.
Oh my God, I wouldn't recommend it.
You also have 2 big dogs.
Well, Claude is small. Bonnie's like, Claude is a mini Aussie.
Is Bonnie the new one?
Yes.
Bonnie's a big one.
I guess recap for y'all is that I got Claude 3 years ago. He was from a breeder. He's a mini Aussie. He's perfect. He's great. We love him. I felt so inclined to adopt a dog that my friends found on the street in November. Her name is Bonnie. We are like 99% positive that she was a homeless person's dog, because she had a collar on, but it was like totally tattered, no microchip, no tag on it or anything. She only knows how to sit, but she very clearly had never been indoors before. Like, literally didn't walk upstairs, like, didn't know how to walk, scared the shit out of herself in our mirror, like, was not potty trained, which I did not know. And I was like, I'm obsessed with her. She's so cute. She is a half lab, half Catahoula, and has heterochromia, and so does my other dog, which is when they have 2 colored eyes. So I was like, she's perfect. I must have her. And damn, having 2 dogs is so much harder. Like, Bonnie literally vomited all over my floor this morning, and I was just like, oh my God, you gotta be kidding me. But like, yeah, and like, she shed so much, and I was like, I did not know that was a thing. But it is like, it's my time that it takes for me to take care of a dog now has like at least quadrupled.
Did they get along well?
You know, at first they did not, but it only took about a week.
Takes time.
Yeah, and now they're friends.
That's what I hear.
And like, I really got Bonnie, because I was like, Claude, like, he needs a friend.
Yeah.
They don't really care about each other though. Like, they just kind of, you know, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, just like running around the house.
Well, when they're alone at home, at least they have company.
Yeah.
You know,
they can feel the camaraderie of
Exactly.
being abandoned together.
Together.
I'm sure it helps, you know?
I swear to God, I could talk to you all day.
Well, same.
All day. But one way that we love to end our episodes, because I have noticed that it's very hard for me and a lot of other women to take a second to slow down and talk about something that they're proud of themselves for.
Okay.
So this week, in your personal life, your professional life, whatever you want to share,
Yes.
what is something that you are very proud of yourself for?
Okay, I just had this conversation with Brandon, actually, because last year around this time, I think I had like 2,000 followers on Instagram, and I had probably like 80,000 on TikTok or something like that. And I was seeing all of my friends that were content creators in Austin going to all of these really cool South by events. And I was like, dang, next year I want to be invited to these events. And this year I'm like, I've been invited to so many events that I'm literally saying no to them. And I'm like, that is so cool that within a year, like I've been able to make that happen for myself. And I was like so proud of myself thinking back on that. And it was kind of the same thing recently with like, I said the same thing about like Soho House when they opened in Austin. I was like, I'm not going to apply, but like one day I want to be able to apply and have like the merits to be able to do it from like a creator standpoint. And now I did. And it's like, you have to recognize that growth, because the hard part with content is there's no one telling you you're doing a good job. Mm-hmm. Absolutely no one. Like, sure, people will like a video, or like, you know, a video will go viral and you'll feel like you're doing a good job, but you don't have a manager being like, great job, like you really killed it. Great. Yeah. And for me, and I think someone that grows up in corporate America or like even school, like ingrains this in you where you get grades, like you vie for that external validation. And when you don't have it, you really need to have these moments where you recognize and give yourself that external validation. So I try to be more mindful of that in my own like career, in my life. But yeah, that was a big moment, being able to like literally like be invited to so many things at South by that I can't go to all of them, or like don't want to, because honestly I'm tired. I think we're all tired right now.
So tired.
So I don't have a voice. That's why I sound probably a little less nasally than I do, because my voice is practically gone. But yeah, that was probably my favorite thing this week. What about you though?
That's awesome.
What's yours?
Oh, nobody's flipped it on me yet.
I have to know.
See. I am really proud of myself for walking up to Jay Shetty at the Podcast Awards last night and pitching myself.
Yeah.
And trust me, it wasn't like the prettiest thing that I've ever done, because I literally was like just like stars. Yeah. I don't get starstruck.
Yeah.
But like his aura is unlike anything that I've come in contact with.
So is yours, girl. Don't sell yourself short. You were literally like the most joyous person. Like I've never seen you, like every single time I've seen you, you just look so excited and happy, and like you woke up on the right side of the bed every single day of your life. Like,
that's the nicest thing ever, because I did not, and I do not.
Well, you would never know. I would say your aura competes with Jay Shetty's, okay?
Okay, my life is just made. Literally, my life is just made. You have no idea. I think I'm so excited and so hyped every time that I'm meeting people out in Austin, or like going and doing something, because similar to you, when I moved here, I didn't know anyone. I didn't have any friends. I wasn't invited to anything. And then it's like now going out and knowing that there's all these social circles and I'm meeting all these new friends, and everyone is so inspiring and so creative. And it's just fueling. That it's like, gosh, you should leave your house more often. Right? Because when you do, the people things happen.
Seriously, I was just saying this to Brandon yesterday. I was like, the amount of people that I met this week, like when I was in line for the bathroom at the Unwell event, my literal dream is to get Suede Skin in Lauren Bostic's hand, right? And I met someone that does her social media in the line, and they knew me, and they were like, oh my gosh. And I'm pretty sure I was a little drunk, but I'm pretty sure I gave her a sample of Suede Skin because it's gone from my purse. But I was like, oh my God, I'm going to the IRL event. Like I would die to be able to give her this. And she was like, absolutely. And like, also, like I met someone at Meta, and they were like, oh, you should like come to the, like, it's crazy who you meet when you leave your house.
Right?
Absolutely insane.
And when you put yourself out there.
Yeah.
You know, like put yourself out there, talk to people, and like just network, because you never know.
Yeah. And there's always someone that knows someone that can like do something that you're trying to do. And if you don't tell people about, and that's why I always think, this is so off topic, but like I disagree with the sentiment where you're supposed to kind of like move in silence and not talk about the things that you're doing. Because one, I think it's like terrible for accountability, but it's like, if you don't tell people what you're doing, they might know someone that like totally can help you in whatever you're doing, and they can connect you with that person, and like whether or not that pans out, whatever, but like no one will know to even think of you if you're not telling them about it. And you're not like,
so right.
Yeah. And that's why I'm always like, I've been talking about making this brand for like a year now. And honestly, if I wasn't telling people and being so outward about it, I probably would have stopped, because it's so hard. It's been so hard to make it. Like it would have been so easy to quit if I hadn't told anyone. But like I've told so many people, and they're all so excited about it that I'm like, okay, well, I have to do it.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. There's a saying that confidence comes from keeping the promises that you make to yourself.
Yes.
And I absolutely love that and have noticed that my confidence has increased so much by keeping those promises. But the way that I made sure that I kept those promises was also by talking about it with other people, because not only did I not want to let myself down, now there's people there that are cheering for me, that are thinking of me in rooms because they've heard that that's something I'm passionate about. So it's such a twofold. I agree with that so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Like even as small as like saying, I'm going to wake up early tomorrow. And you snooze that alarm, that baby, like that gets you. Like you have to be able to rely on yourself. So if you can't do that, how can you rely on others? How can they rely on you?
Boom. Yeah. Girl, there's been so many mic drop moments in this conversation. You have no idea. This was so much fun. Like I said, I literally could talk to you all day. I have no idea how long we've been talking for.
I don't know either. I imagine I rambled on a lot. So this is going to be a long podcast episode for you to edit. But I'll remember for the next one that being succinct is important.
You know what? The girlies are going to love it because they get to know you and got to hear you in a long format instead of a quick video. So thank you for coming on. Pimp yourself out. Where does everyone find you? I'll put you in the show notes too. But
okay, let's see. I'm on TikTok and Instagram. Pretty sure it's Catherine.Lockhart on Instagram and Catherine_Lockhart on TikTok. I do not know who stole my username on TikTok, but it's fine. And then, in my bio on Instagram, there's Lone Star Locals, the hat company. If you're an Austin girly, you want a cute Austin hat, or if you just want to match Alix Earle and be super awesome, you can go grab one of the hats. And then Suede Skin is there as well. And we have a little sign up. So if you want to get notified of when Suede Skin's launching this summer, you can put your email in and we'll email you.
Let's go. And like I said, that will all be in the show notes for your girlies.
Awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming on. You're the best. That was so fun.
That was really fun.
Oh my